Hello, everyone. Welcome to Solo Arts Heal, thanks to the Marsh Theater and AnCan. My name is Hannah, and I'm actually going to be your host for today, Hannah Garrison. I'm actually filling in for Rick Davis and Alexa Jett. I'm actually AnCan's art instructor. So that means that I create and I teach all of AnCan's art classes for mental health well-being. So I'm here for because I'm an instructor I'm an art instructor for adults facing health challenges. And because of that, I automatically felt a connection to our guest, weaver and weaving instructor extraordinaire, José Picayo. So we have a different kind of show for you guys tonight. As we chat with Jose about his experiences dealing with cancer and using the art of weaving as sort of his art therapy, we're also going to be weaving right here on camera. Okay, so you'll get to see uh, me actually be the student this time. Okay, so I'm very excited to learn the art of weaving with Jose Picayo. So he teaches weaving at a couple of different places in New York. So I guess before we break out those weaving materials, Jose, I would like to invite you to come on out and give us a brief introduction. Um, I guess you can start out. Where do you teach? Okay, where do you teach out there in New York? Go ahead.
Hi, Hannah. Thank you for
Hi.
having me and doing this. I teach in New York City at one place is a Textile Arts Center in Brooklyn. The other one is the National Council of Jewish Women on 72nd Street in New York City, and also at New York Presbyterian Methodist Hospital in Brooklyn, where I teach cancer patients
Okay.
weaving. So.
Okay. I appreciate that. And I'm very excited for today's lesson. I guess before we dive into that, we want to get to know you a little bit, maybe your backstory a bit. So you mentioned you teach cancer patients. How did those two teaching opportunities come about?
Well, first, I'm going to say how I got into weaving,
Yeah,
period.
there you go. Yes.
Because I feel that my weaving and cancer are very connected, because
Hmm.
without one, I wouldn't be doing the other. So in 2014, I had ear cancer, and I had come back. I had been a photographer all my life, and I had come back from location, and I was honestly, I was exhausted from just what work had turned into. It wasn't as creative anymore, and I felt that I needed something new to do, not to change my career, but just to do. And in that meantime, I turned out that with the cancer, I was treated my ear. I had surgery. I had 3 rounds of Mohs
A lot.
surgery, and I
Yeah.
had so I'm sitting at home with 9 stitches, and I'm thinking, okay, weaving. Don't know why, just came into my head. Maybe because I travel with small kids, like cross stitch and needlepoint and things like that.
Huh.
But anyway, I called my friend, and she said, call the Textile Arts Center in Brooklyn. And so, and take a class. And I took a class, went over there, and, I started taking classes there. And from day one, I couldn't stop. Um, and then after a few years at the center, they asked me to teach. And I was totally scared to teach weaving. I felt that I had no right to do this. And they said, no, you're ready. You can do it. And
Clearly they believed in you. Yeah.
well, yeah, and
They saw
and
you
I've done
impressed
it, and
somebody there.
yeah, and I mean, it was unexpected, but once I started weaving, I thought that it was very, or teaching, not weaving. Once I
Hmm.
started teaching weaving, I realized that it was a very teachable thing,
Yeah.
more so than photography, because you don't have a dark room, and I'm talking old now, dark
Yeah.
room. Um,
It's
but you
okay. I've
do, with weaving, it was a very portable kind of thing, this type of weaving, and I felt that I wanted to do it. And so I started there, and then over time I took over at the National Council of Jewish Women, and then the hospital came about later with my diagnosis of prostate cancer.
Okay, I gotcha.
That's- mm.
So at the hospital, were you over there as a patient? So I'm trying to walk us through how that got started as well. Were you there as a patient? How did you get started working at the hospital too?
So I was diagnosed, and my urologist said, "Why don't you go see?" He gave me the recommendations, and he said, "Why don't you go see these other people that I work with?" One was a radiation oncologist, one was a hematologist, which um, I didn't really understand why, but anyway,
Hmm.
I um, I went to see them both, and while I was at the radiation appointment, at the reception desk, there was a flyer for painting classes. And I said to my wife, "Oh, I'm going to go over and ask." And she kind of laughed, and she said, "Of course." And I went over and I said, I asked about it. They said, "Oh, you want to paint?" And I said, "No, I want to teach weaving." And they said, "Oh, let me get the director. She's right here."
Wow.
And they brought the director, and she's like, "What do you need?" Basically. And so it started there. So I have to say, when it showed up in front of me, I had to take advantage of it.
It's
So,
it
you know,
sounds like they were craving something, it sounds like.
yeah.
It takes a lot too to just go up and just ask if you can be a part of of what they're doing there too.
Well, I never did it
Yeah.
because I didn't know who to call. And
Yeah,
and they'd probably say
yeah,
on the
who
phone,
knows?
what are you talking about? First of all, people wouldn't know weaving, probably. And then
Yep.
to just have call, I asked my friend who was a doctor and an ER in New York, and he said, just call, I don't know what he said, customer service, whatever, and tell them. But I didn't think that was going to happen. So
Yeah.
this showed up in front of me, and I thought, if it's not going to work now, it's not going to work,
So it was just sort
So
of the perfect opportunity then. You
yeah,
thought of it on the
yeah,
spot and then you went for it. So now we're
yep,
here. Okay, I'm
yes,
okay. So I would really love to dive into that experience a little bit more later, but I
hmm,
understand that you have some pictures that you want to show us.
I
So
do.
some of your weaving pictures.
So,
Yeah, let's go
um,
ahead and go through that.
okay, when so when I my first day of weaving in Brooklyn, I just went home and went into the computer and started looking for weaving, um, anything that showed up. This is the first part of the first piece that I wove. It's probably about 12 inches by, I don't know, 10 feet. So it's all the different structures that we show in a class that we go through. You can go
Okay.
the next one. The next one is also part of it. Yeah. So you can see it's the same colors, but it's all different techniques in weaving that you learn in that class.
Okay.
Um,
Huh.
and then the first weaver that showed up was this, not weaver, she wasn't a weaver, a historian more, I call her, Frances Goodrich, who traveled by horse. This is her trail. If you go to the next picture, and this is her traveling in the 1800s on her horse to empower women in the mountains, in the Appalachian Mountains. She traveled by the river, which was a road, and she found all these women that did different things like baskets and weaving and things like that. So she opened a museum and a store for them to sell their items, and that was in early 1900s, and the place is still open in North Carolina, in
Oh
Asheville,
wow.
under it is called the Southern Highland Craft Guild, and
Okay.
it's just an incredible place if you get a chance to go. But anyway,
Yeah.
to me, I sort of owe her, and I loved her books, which all her books were the two books that were published of what she collected, are all patterns and drafts that you can actually weave. So,
So did you research Miss Goodrich? Was this before when you were
nope,
first learning weaving? Was this
no.
a long time ago?
It's when I went home and I went on the computer and did, I don't know what, weaving or something, this book came up in her story.
Okay, I gotcha.
And I thought it was the most just incredible story, really. And I love her story. So
Yeah.
so in those days, people would weave with natural colors. These women spun their yarn. They would grow their own flax to make linen,
So
and then
there's
they
more
would
of a
spin it.
process. Yeah.
Yeah, they would spin it. They would dye it, and the colors were all natural dyes from trees. So greens and the natural wools, but also madder, like the reds and the oranges and things like that. So
Mhm.
the next picture, it's really my third class. It's from what is called a projects class, and it's a draft from one of her books, and I did it in the colors that they would have done, some the green and white.
Look
And
at
this is
that
really, I say,
pattern.
in her honor for showing me what what weaving was, really.
Beautiful. How
So
big is this piece? This is gorgeous.
it's about 17 by 6 feet, and then I wove a second section with
Wow.
stripes of colors that
Okay.
I don't have here. So it's the same pattern but different colors.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Gorgeous.
it was just, I was so happy to see that come out, because
My goodness.
it was my third weaving ever.
Yeah, third weaving ever, and look at that. That's
So
that's skill. He did
it's
amazingly.
all right.
Show us the next one. Let's see the next one. Oh
So
my
then
goodness.
I go into another class called double weave, and this is what I made. It looks like it's sort of what do you call it? Like it's in like a bubble kind of thing, but it's just the
Yeah.
effect of the different blocks building to the bigger to the thinner.
Okay, okay.
Um, and that's what it is. But um, love the piece. It's a lot of work because in the way that it's made. So uh, you can go to the next.
Yeah, this is ooh, look at that.
This is another double weave. Really, it's quadruple weave. It's 4 layers that you can weave, and you can see on the bottom there's really 4 colors: a white, a black, a pink, and like a melon color. Um, and as you weave it, you're picking up the different layers. So that's how the checkerboard is created in the different colors. The stripe in the middle is actually a slit that you can weave where it's actually a slit. So that's sort of the way
So it's
pockets
an
can be made.
opening. Oh,
Yeah,
gotcha.
you can
Okay.
make pockets that way because on the sides it is closed.
Okay.
So it's
Convenient.
a fun piece. I again, it's one of my first ones that I didn't know anything other than the instructor telling me how to do what I wanted to do. So I showed up
So,
with a drawing.
oh, okay. I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind this one?
I showed up with just graph paper with a drawing. I said, I want to do this. And she said, okay, double weave. This is how you do it. Set it up this way, blah, blah, blah.
Brilliant.
Now I understand and I can do it if I want to. So that's been part of the learning. But
Great. Yeah,
love
let's
the piece.
cool. Let's see another one.
Yeah.
I think we probably have time for one more, I think, and then we
Okay.
can dive into
Yeah.
the weaving.
And this one was another class called warp painting, where you take the warp, it's what you put on the loom to weave, and then you paint it, and then you weave that.
Oh, you
So
paint it
yes,
first. Okay.
so I did the circles, I did little circles and stripes, and then you weave that. So
Oh, what brilliant. Okay.
so
Honestly, that is such a great segue, actually, totally not intended, for our actual weaving lesson. So
yeah,
maybe later on we can show a little bit more pictures because I know you have
sure,
more pictures.
yeah,
So maybe if we find some time in between, but you mentioned warp, okay?
yep,
So yeah, let's go ahead and
okay,
go into the actual weaving. So remind me again, okay, warp
yes.
is actually the structure, right? Is
Well,
that correct?
the warp is what you put on the loom.
Okay, so
It's
this is what we put on the
the
loom.
yarn that you wind on the loom to
Hmm.
support your weaving. Without a warp, you're
Okay,
not going to have a weaving. So the
gotcha.
warp is what's on the loom. It's always vertical.
So it's this part.
Yeah. And then the
Okay,
weft is what you weave, which is
weft.
always going horizontal. It's what you're going to
Okay.
weave into your warp.
Okay, I gotcha.
Okay.
So this is the yarn that we're going to use. That's the
Yes.
weft.
And in this
Okay, so
case, this is a frame loom. It's a
okay.
frame, and this is what is called tapestry, which it has a certain look because it's what is called weft faced, where you're never going to see the warp. So you're
Okay.
basically going to pack the wool and you're never going to see the weft. So when you're looking at it, all you're looking at is basically the weft.
The weft.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And we do have a list of terminology for you guys. We'll go ahead and put it in the chat.
Yes.
Because okay, I am an art instructor, okay, but I know nothing about weaving. So I had to really pay attention to all of these new terms. So
You did a good, you've done really great job.
and I
So,
appreciate you explaining everything to me and being
uh,
so patient. That's
no, it's okay.
important. So what are we
So,
doing now?
I'm just basic stripes. And
Okay.
this is a good old plastic fork from, food delivery that you don't want, but they deliver them anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
know
and
that.
then I'm just creating stripes, right? So you're going from one end to the other, and then
Okay.
you just beat it hard enough, and it's going to um, block your warp. You're not going to see it.
So, can you explain the over under method?
Yes.
Because it just makes so much more sense when you explain it.
So weaving basically is interlacement of threads, right? So
Okay.
you're
Hmm.
going over and under some, in the different techniques, you do it differently. And tapestry, which is mostly plain weave, it's what I'm doing, which is going over and under every other one,
Okay.
right? So it's the strongest of all the structures because every warp thread is getting interlaced.
Every warp
Um,
thread getting interlaced. Ooh,
yes.
don't mean to interrupt you, but I do want to remind the audience that we will have a Q&A session
Yep.
in not too long now. So please send your questions. I already see some questions, so
Okay.
thank you for that. So yes, go ahead, Jose.
And then I'm just going to switch it so you can see a different color stripe, but
Okay.
don't, you can stick with the same when I teach weaving, the process is to first doing the loom and you need the tension to be tight. You need tension to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start with the simple stripes to get people used to the idea of over under, because even if that sounds simple, it's
Mm-hmm.
very easy to just skip
Over
and
under.
then you will
Okay.
see it, you will notice it. And then people will come back to me and say, this doesn't look right. You're right. So it's very easy to undo, but it's the easiest thing to do to learn. And then from that, I start teaching the different
Different
techniques that you can do.
techniques. Okay, I
So
gotcha.
I'm just going to finish this stripe and then we can um, go
Yeah. So
again.
yeah, so I'm thinking that you go ahead and finish that. I'm gonna see if I can catch up with you with my second color. Um,
Okay.
and then I want to get into the nitty-gritty of what goes on in your mind when you're teaching, okay?
Look at this pretty green and white thing going on.
Yeah, no, those are great colors. Um, I have to say, your color choices are, I love your color choices. I've never been good at that, but
They
I just go with whatever I want.
Here, Hannah. This is my color choices. Okay, right here. Look.
Many, so many. See,
That's where they came from. So let me just while you're doing that, if you want, I
yeah,
will just
yeah,
um
just
while you
so the,
finish,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm just gonna show I don't know, throw these in while we're on this
Yeah, show us some
little piece
more.
of weaving. It's about 3 inches. The whole thing is about 5 feet long, but anyway, it's a little cross with all
Gorgeous.
these like modern kind of things. This one is kind of fun because it's what is called pile weave. So it's almost like a shag rug that gets cut.
Oh,
Um,
that's what I want to do. That
and
is
the back is really
beautiful.
beautiful. That's the back. You don't want to use the back, but the back
Yeah.
is but anyway, this is how thick it is. You can see it.
Wow, very textural. Yeah, that's
So
gorgeous.
it's a sample, but to make a rug like this, it would take
Uh-huh.
time. It
Takes
would
a
take
while.
a lot of time.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I do want to
So
do that. That's
yeah.
go ahead.
Um, so one thing sometimes, or not sometimes, a lot of times people call me and they're getting rid of their looms or their families don't want them. Somebody died and they don't know anything about weaving. Um, a dumpster's going to come and pick them up on Sunday if you don't pick it up. So I end up with all these looms, and I donate them either to my students,
Uh,
um, or someone, I take them to the places I teach, or sometimes I keep one if I really something that I had heard of and hadn't seen it.
yeah.
Um, and that cross that I showed before is from a loom that came from a person that had passed away, and it
Okay.
was on the actual loom. And so I decided to finish that for that person, even if I don't know who that person is. And
Must have
I
been
just,
fun.
yeah, I just think of her, as a weaver, how much she cared and her spirit and, this, the life of the loom, because that loom that came was 100 years old. And, yeah, yeah. And I love it. So,
Rick is so funny. He says, donate one to Hannah. Hint, hint.
Hannah can find one
Kidding.
in Texas. There will be one. I will find you
Absolutely.
one. Geez.
So so Jose,
Yes.
I was trying to go quickly with the next color, okay? I have to go slow. Okay. So, but
It's okay.
I got the first row in here, okay?
Okay.
I might need your guidance on how am I supposed to connect these? What do I do with these end points here?
Okay. You should weave that in.
Okay, I
Remember, you're
should
going to weave
weave that
it.
in.
You're going to, on the
Okay,
next row, weave your next row. Don't leave it so long yeah, that end on the left end. So you
left end.
weave with the right, weave with your right.
Which way is right again? This way. This one?
Yes, that one. Yes.
Okay,
You're going to
this one.
weave with the white. Oh, you're going to finish the blue.
I mean, I can take it out. This is
Here,
I can
no,
or I can
here.
cut it. Doesn't
So
matter.
Hannah, all you're gonna do, let's pretend this is the end here,
Okay.
right? You're just gonna take and weave it in like 3 ends and then put it under.
In
You're gonna do
three and then
this.
put it under.
You're gonna it's gonna be underneath and you're never
Oh.
gonna see it again,
Okay,
right?
so
So
three in and then put it under. I
yeah.
gotcha.
And then you're going to weave your next
Gotcha.
um
Here it is. Couldn't find that.
right.
Silly me. I had taken off this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to remind anybody who wants to try weaving, and I'm sure Jose can attest to this. You can do it. Okay. Be patient with yourself. I'm having to be patient with myself right now, but you
One
can do
one
it. Okay.
one thing I tell my students, because they can get frustrated, and it's not for
Yeah.
everybody. A lot of people, especially on the bigger looms that we teach in Brooklyn, um, and I say, you don't want to race. This is not a race.
Yes.
Just take your time um, but people have high expectations sometimes, and
And
it's hard.
I say the same thing about artwork too, because
Mm,
so many people put art on this pedestal that is so unachievable sometimes.
mm.
But all you have to do is just be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the same with weaving.
Yep.
Okay, so I have done the best that I can do at this moment. Jose, please take it over.
Um, so so when I was diagnosed and this program started, I started the weaving at the hospital. Um, all these students showed up that didn't know what weaving was. Some of them are in the painting program, some are not. But again, they were like, "What's weaving? What's that?" And they started with these little looms, 5 inches by 5 inches. And all of a sudden they were taking them home and coming back. And every 2 weeks I go to the hospital, and they would come back with these incredible things. And I was like, what are you doing? You don't need me here. And there's one student that couldn't start because she was being treated and she was too weak and tired. And she has just gone crazy with this weaving thing. And her kids would say, "Oh, mom is entertained. It's so good. We're so glad that mom
Oh,
has something to do." But
oh, I
now
love
it's
that.
not more about mom being entertained. Now it's like, "Mom, can you make me this? Can you make me that?" And so mom now has become this weaver, and she's making
So
these
amazing.
placemats for her daughter-in-law. She made a wine a bottle bag
Oh, I've seen
recently.
those.
Well,
Yeah.
she made it out of 6 pieces of weaving, 6 different pieces. It's the most incredible like
Huh.
thing, and
Interesting. Six pieces of
she wove six
weaving
different pieces. She wove
pieces.
four for the
Oh,
bag, and she wove one for the bottom, and she
brilliant.
wove a strap for the bag.
Okay, brilliant.
Uh,
So she's really taken this to the
yeah,
next level.
yes,
Okay.
and she's bought big looms. She's got like a 20-inch loom now, wide, like this tapestry, but 20 inches.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it's I have one of her
Goals.
pieces in the slideshow, and it's just great. But anyway, it the hospital did a video. I think it's going to be on the chat, about the
Yeah, we'll
weaving
put it in the
program,
chat. Hmm.
and it just makes me happy that these people, first they show up every 2 weeks, and they come, and they've been for 2 years now. Like, they really come every 2 weeks to weave, and it's become more than that. It's become a social sort of group, and we just talk about things, sometimes about baseball.
Oh,
Are big, but baseball or food. The one brings sweets every week.
oh,
um,
amazing.
and the other thing is the staff. Also, the staff at the hospital, when they have a break, they come in and learn to weave, or they're curious by it. And I have two
See,
of them. Yeah, I have two of them right now that, even if it's 10 minutes, they run to me. They run up, and they're just so anxious to learn that they sort of mess up because they can't wait. But the staff is great because, they're dealing with a lot, and
they do. They do deal
and they
with a
have that
lot.
option. So
See,
it's
you
great.
honestly, that's one of the things that I had wanted to ask you about too. You are really building a community. You have built a community
Mm,
in the hospital,
mm,
and those connections, I feel, they rewire your brain. Everybody needs a support system, right?
mm, mm,
And I'm really glad that you talked about this support system that you guys have just sort of created, that you've actually created,
mm.
just because of this weaving class. So I forgot where I was going with this, but that's okay. Let's keep on.
Well, the sense of community, and one of my students in that class
Yes,
and at the hospital recently passed away in
yes,
January, right? So I saw her right before Christmas. She was going home from the hospital. She was totally fine. 10 days later, she's gone. And
and so,
they had a big memorial for her, but she wanted a party. But everyone from the class went, the doctors went, the people, the staff because the staff there is incredible. They're if anybody needs help, even if they're not under their care, they'll come and help. And and it was just so nice to see, um when this woman passed away, her doctor was with her when she died, holding her hand.
oh my gosh,
Um and
wow.
it's just like the party and what everybody, and I'm just so happy. They honestly, they give me way more than I give them right now. I can give them the teaching, I can give them this, but what they do and what they've created is just, you know, you can't you can't make that, you can't find that. So
No, it's very hard to get to know people in such an intimate way.
yeah.
And Rick actually said it really nicely in the chat. It's like
Mm,
you guys evolve into a family, and that's so
yeah.
true. You evolve to a family, you get to know each other on deeper levels, and that's just kind of what art making and craft making, just that's what it does.
Mhm.
And I feel like you don't really know that feeling until you actually experience it for yourself. And it's just so beautiful that you're there with them through this
I
entire journey.
I have a great time, and I teach in the
Yeah.
mornings at on 72nd Street, and I got to run from Upper West Side of Manhattan to Brooklyn. So it takes me like an hour, a little bit more sometimes. And then once I'm there, sometimes I'm tired. Yeah. And I'm dealing at the center with 80-year-olds, which are a different community, but they also have weaving in a different way because they don't
Mm,
have the, diagnosis that these people have. But they're
interesting.
people that are trying to stay active and weaving. There are many classes there, but I deal with the weaving part.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is the same thing, that new people come in and they become friends. And, at 80 something, most of them have lost their husbands. They form this community and they'll start going to art shows and they'll go on these, city trip, whatever, go have lunch. And um, that is, it's just, it's great. And sometimes it's hard when you teach and you deal with the outside of the classes and the
Yeah.
administrations and all that. But when you think about what the purpose of the class is and you
Yes.
remove yourself from that, then it's a different story.
And that
So
just sort of makes all of that administrative stuff
yeah,
worth it, it sounds
totally.
like.
Yeah.
Now let's go ahead and jump into the next technique because I
Okay.
am so ready for this.
You're anxious.
I
You're
am.
excited.
God, I
You're
haven't
not
done
anxious.
art.
You're excited. You want to do this.
Also, though, I haven't done art today. Normally, I'll do a little something to just kind of calm my mind a little bit. Haven't done
Okay.
that today, so thank you, Jose.
All right. So we are going to do what is called clasp, weft, or interlocking.
Okay.
Okay. So it's the interlocking. Okay. So you're going
Interlocking.
to weave the first three ends the same as how you ended. So you're going to go in the opposite direction, Hannah, as if you're weaving
Oh,
to the outside,
opposite.
right?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
You
So
see
let me
what
get
I
a new
did?
color.
I did three here, right?
Okay.
I went from the inside to the outside.
So I'm still in the opposite direction. Okay.
Yeah. And then I am going to then weave normal up to about the middle. And I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to go all the way through because now we're not doing stripes. We're doing something else.
Okay. So let me catch up to you. As I do.
But I'm not going to
Okay.
beat it yet. I'm not going to beat it either because I want to.
Oh, I just pulled it straight out. I was concentrating so hard and then just pulled it straight out. Okay, there we go. Hopefully I don't do that again.
Oops, I'm not doing that. I'm doing I'm doing orange so that you can see what this is. So I don't know what you
Oh,
have, I think, but I have wool, which I like. I like how it feels. I like how at the end it's just this like heavy, see I'm a mess here because I didn't end my things and I'm trying to do too much here.
that's
Okay.
okay.
So now I'm gonna weave again to the point of where the blue came out. Can you see? Yes. Okay.
To the
So
point. Okay.
I'm gonna get close to the blue. Don't go anywhere else.
Stay right here.
Okay.
I'm definitely going to be rewatching this video. So if you guys in the audience are watching and would like to follow along, this is recorded, so it will be available to you later.
I'm gonna leave that for now. I'm not gonna. So now that you have both, right? And they have not met yet. They're just gonna wrap,
Okay.
you're gonna wrap them around each other.
Like they're hugging.
Right?
Good idea to use the orange too, so I can see it so much more easily. I'm still steps behind you, so don't worry about me.
Yeah. So then there is an warp thread that nothing is happening with it. You're gonna take the orange and you're gonna go under it and come back the way you came in, right?
Okay, so you're looping around. So you
So
went
you're
under
never
the
gonna,
blue.
the colors are gonna stay on one side of the other, right?
Okay, so you've
See, right
crisscrossed.
here where,
So you're in
I,
between the two warp pieces.
right here, yeah.
Okay.
And I actually, because I sort of rushing, I did it, but I'll just show you the basic
It's okay.
idea. And then this is going to be, green, blah, blah. Okay. So you see how these two are kind of locked in between the two warp threads.
Okay, so they,
You see that? They're
yes,
not,
I see
they're
that.
never, they're right here between the two. Right there is where they're sitting.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, so now that I've seen that, okay, so that's gonna be there. So that's gonna piece of
Oh,
thread is gonna stay right there.
I missed under it is,
So
see,
we have a question somebody submitted. How long have you been weaving?
I started in 2014, late 14, so 10 years. Since November was my first class. So
I think I'm frozen. I'm the one
yeah,
that's frozen.
yes. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna do one more row just to show this,
Okay.
but it's gonna be very short on the orange, only because I want to show you what the different things can look like. So I'm just gonna go to there with the orange, with the blue. Then we're gonna take the orange just to there. So the orange in this row is gonna be very short. It's not gonna be, oops. Come on, man, I went the wrong way. See? Even I can do that. Okay, so boom, boom. Okay.
Just so you know, my my face disappeared, but I'm working on getting back up there, okay? But I can hear you at least, so that's great.
Okay, so I'm just gonna lock these and weave them and show what it looks like on so you see right there,
Okay, yeah, that's where they
they're
meet.
going.
Okay,
Yep. So
gotcha.
over. Wait, let me see. Sorry, I went down. Have to go over. And down. Normally, you don't have all these things hanging, but it's a little confusing here. Oh, come on, man. Gotta get rid of this. Sometimes when you have different, the thing about tapestry is that you will have sometimes on the big tapestry pieces that the big tapestry studios make, you could have 100 bobbins hanging, all with
Wow.
different threads because they're creating different sort of images
Yeah.
on the on the tapestries. So when you think about the unicorn tapestries,
Hmm.
um, that's insane. The work that went into them, because
Yeah.
that
So,
those are tapestries, and a lot of them use not even wool. They used silk, which is very fine. So
mhm.
it would take even more to do it. So, you know, one thing about weaving is that it made me appreciate what the work that goes into it. You never really thought of the unicorn tapestries in that way. Um, and when you see them, I'm just like it's crazy the amount of work that people put into them. And it was a sign of royalty, really. It was people with money that had them, but still, um, the people that made them never got credit, probably, but um, it was just they're just incredible the amount of work. So you
Ooh,
can
I'm
see
back.
what happened here. It's sort of like that, and this is what a small piece on the same loom can look like.
Same size. Okay, so that's
Yep.
with the first technique that you're showing us, right? The
The second
interlocking.
one,
Oh, second
this one,
one.
the interlocking. Yeah, the first one was the stripes. The stripes are just stripes. Those are just straight stripes.
Okay, so that's just the very first
The
technique.
beginning
Okay.
one, yes, yes,
Okay. I love that small little one. The one that you
yeah.
just showed, the little piece you
Mm-hmm.
just showed. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that one. So now that my computer is back, I'd like
yeah.
to be able to turn my camera back on.
Okay.
But I thought I'd seen another question.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Let me see. Can Let me see. Can one of you guys please send me one of the questions? Somebody from the back, one of the questions. 'Cause I thought I'd seen. Ah, here we go. Here it is. Do you have students who never made art before? I ask because I never made visual art until Hannah's classes, and it changed my brain. Oh, this is from Karen. This is from one of my classes. Hi, Karen. So yes, do you have students who never made art before?
I have students all the time, especially at the hospital. I don't think one of them did.
Really?
The staff never did. They didn't even know what weaving was. Um,
Wow.
at um, at the Jewish Center, there's a woman that has made 300 tapestries, and you know, um, but a lot of them, no, yeah, they've never done it because they were, they had jobs or they had something, and now some of them start in their 80s, and
Fantastic.
some of the my really uh, friend who was a weaver. She died at 100 in 2017. She probably started in her 40s, late. Um, and a lot of weavers started late, but they also, a lot of them live to be 100 because I think they're so active. Um,
Yeah.
and you need to use your brain, you need to use math in weaving. Um, and the motion, the physical part of it also, um, that I think is just a very healthy form of art and
Well,
therapy,
it's that mind body connection too.
Yeah.
I hear all the
Yeah.
time people who do yoga, they talk about that all the time. It's that mind
Mm.
body connection
Yeah.
that it just does something. Okay. And
Mm.
actually, that was one of my questions that I'd had for you. What kind of relief or benefits does weaving provide for you? And it does sound like that mental aspect of getting your brain to focus on something else. But let me hear it in your own words. I'll stop talking.
Yeah, I mean, for me, especially when I was in 2014, yes, it gave me something new, but let's face the skin cancer was skin cancer. It wasn't,
Hmm.
other forms. But
Yeah, different.
with the prostate, and even if I am not um treated with radiation or surgery, um, it just gave me whenever in the beginning it was confusing, there was anxiety, all these things, I would just jump to a loom. I would just take a loom and it would take my mind away and it would calm me. Um, Other things, going on the trails, picking up the camera and going, taking pictures or going for a run, all these things. But the weaving I could do when I wake up every morning, and my wife could tell you at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'll be weaving. As soon as I wake up, the other night at 2:30 at night, I woke up, couldn't go back to bed until 4. I come downstairs, I weave.
Fantastic.
And I think that sitting at the loom, the whole process is very much like meditation. It's like you start with one thread. Sometimes you have 2,000 warp ends to put on a loom. Sometimes you have
2000.
200, yeah, or more. So that process, you can sit inside my loom. You can sit there and just do everything you need to do. And it's a system, it's a process. And then it just, it's rewarding also.
So do you hear the same kind of benefits from your students as well? Like what exactly do you hear? What do they get from it?
Well, when they weave something and that they created something mentally, it's like an achievement. And as
Yeah.
frustrated as they are in the beginning with the process, and I'm messing up, I'm saying, just, well, everything can be fixed. Um, I
Everything's
think that,
fixable. Yes.
yeah, I think that just the, you know, getting something made and being able to do that, um, it's just an incredible feeling, and some of them might not think about it. I am going to ask them about it because I thought after our first conversation to ask the students at the hospital to write for me what weaving does for them, so even
Oh,
if I know
yeah.
some of them, um, but I'd be curious to know what they get out of it. So, um,
Yeah. So another question that I had, how do they approach, especially beginners, especially people who have never done weaving before, this is their first time, how do they approach selecting a design or figuring out what colors they use? Does it depend on the person? Maybe you can tell me about your process, how you
well,
tackle that.
I have blue people that only do blue. I have pink people that show up dressed in pink,
Interesting.
and now I see them in pink, and I go, what color would you? I go, you want pink? And they kind of laugh, they smile. Um,
Oh,
the
that's so
process,
funny.
yeah, we're all because we have bags, the same bags of that same yarn,
Yeah.
and I let them choose, but the process, we all sit together. If everybody's at the same level, some people pick it up quicker, so then it becomes a lot different. But we just do the warp part together, and then
Okay.
I teach them the same thing. Let's do stripes first. Are you comfortable? Everybody's comfortable with that. Let me show you how to do the slit. Let me show you how to do you know, and and then they go home and they remember it, and they go home and they come back with these crazy pieces that I'm just floored by them.
And it
Um,
does seem to be easy to remember the steps. Like once your hands, at least this, I'm
mm,
speaking from my experience, okay? Once your hands have done them a few times, it really
yeah,
seems like the that muscle memory is easy to retain.
and I think it, especially when you're working on one piece, and that's
Mm-hmm.
maybe not tapestry so much, but on a loom, you get into this rhythm, and when something is not right. If something happens, you go, oh, you feel it,
Yeah, you feel it.
and
Yeah.
and the thing with weaving is the more you do it, the steps get shorter in the process of dressing the loom.
Okay.
And at first it's overwhelming and you think, oh my God, I screwed up. I did this, I did that. And my thing is always, you didn't. Everything can be fixed. So
That's my philosophy. Yep.
yeah. So um I have a student at the Jewish Center, and her husband had open heart surgery. And I would always check up on her because she was gone for 3 weeks. How are you?
Yeah.
I'm I'm okay. He's at ICU, but I have my loom. I have my weaving. Um, I have another one. I was leaving class the other day and I said, how are you? Are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. Do you need anything? She said, I'm sad. My sister-in-law passed away. And all of a sudden, without a word, she turns to me and she says, but I have weaving.
Oh,
And then we spoke a little bit. And then at the end, she just said to me, but I have my weaving.
but she has your she
And
has her weaving.
yeah, and it just, it really, I can't sort of explain, for me, it's
Yeah.
a whole new thing that relates a lot to photography in a way with the hands-on. I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
computer person. So for me, just seeing these looms and the process of it and just what you get out of it, because when you start weaving on a loom from the first pick, which is when you weave, that's called a pick, you
Mm-hmm.
start to see something. And it's just always, it never stops, amazing, um, um, just how amazing it is for me to be able to do that, and um, I have three looms in the studio right now set up that I go from one to the other to the other. And then up here I have whatever looms to do. So
Um, you know, it's so funny because I know that you showed me a picture of your loom that's actually a grill.
oh yeah, it's
What
in
can we please see a picture of
yeah,
that?
it's
It
one of the
just
pictures.
blew my mind whenever Jose first told me
Just
about that.
just don't do it with, after you cook shrimp or whatever. At least clean it,
No,
let
clean
it
it.
let it get rusty and whatever.
But
Um
but I also wanted to I guess bring attention to I I guess what it's like to what you feel whenever you help people, because I do believe as a art teacher, art instructor, that there's something about helping people and um, going through this journey, I guess, with them, that does something to you, like does at least to me. It does something to you that I think is healing, and I wanted to get your thoughts about that.
well, I think that when I like, especially the cancer patients, that there are different levels and they have different conditions and different
Mm-hmm.
treatments. Um, and they come to me and I can give them something. And it really
Mm-hmm.
all depends how you approach it, I guess. If, you know,
Oh,
there are different ways of doing it that people can come back, or people might say, this guy's a jerk and, I don't want to go back to it. But I try to have fun with them and with it.
yeah,
They're never,
bonding.
and I let them go as far as they want to go, with it. So I think that um I'm used to it because I do it, every 2 weeks I go to the hospital. I teach twice at the Jewish Center, but I can see how excited they are about it, and they just want to learn,
And that
and at
feeling catches on too.
yeah, and at that
Excitement.
age, I think, people can retire and do nothing. How many people retire and just basically do nothing and die,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
when this cancer in 2014 and the work and all that, I said to myself, I'm not going to let my brain rot working for these people that I don't have fun anymore. So it was a big adjustment, but rewarding for me. And for the students, I think it's the same thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't, you
They
know,
would
they
they
wouldn't
wouldn't
come
keep coming
back,
back.
you know.
Exactly.
And
I have a question for you, and
mm,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we have
no,
only a few minutes, okay?
okay.
So, question from Rick, okay? Rick always thought that tapestry was on an embroidery cloth, and now he's learning that it can be on a loom? Question mark. So he always thought tapestry was on an embroidery
No,
cloth. Okay.
that's embroidery.
Okay.
Um, Tapestry is weaving.
Okay.
Tapestry
Tapestry,
is
same thing.
weaving and it's weft faced. You're never going to see the warp. Tapestry is weaving.
So you're never going to see these lines. You're
Yes.
only going to see the weft, the
Yes.
colors. Okay.
Embroidery is embroidery.
Okay.
It's a fabric and you embroider this. Sorry. Good thing that Rick, I knew somebody was going to bring this up because it's
No,
not weaving.
it is a good
Okay.
question though. Yeah.
So this is a tote bag that I bought, but it's a cross stitch bag. And I designed this on graph paper and it's all cross stitches. They're little
Oh, I see
X's,
them.
cross
Oh,
stitched, very
yes.
small
Okay.
X's on the whole bag. So
Gotcha.
this is embroidery because it's part of embroidery. Um, but yes, embroidery is not weaving.
I hope that
Um,
helps, Rick.
yes.
We have one more question. How big
Mhm.
are your different looms?
The one I'm sitting on right now, it's 59 inches wide, and it can weave as long as you want because you can wind the warp as long as you want. It's got what it's called warp beams, so you can put as long. Some people put 7 yards at a time.
Wow.
Usually, I put 3 or 4. Um, right now, I'm weaving a 50-inch rug wide by well, it's going to be two pieces put together, so it's going to be 10 feet by 12 feet. So,
Okay.
um,
Oh, it's going to be 10 feet by 12 feet. Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So,
Fantastic.
so yes, so that's what I'm
See,
doing.
I'm going to strive for that. Okay, we do have another question. What is the largest loom that you have or have given away? Because you did mention that you do donate some
Yes.
looms.
Well, usually I have to be able to or they have to be able to put in a car in New York City.
Makes
So
sense. Yes.
I think it was 36 or 45 inches. Floor
Okay,
loom.
okay.
A floor
Yeah.
loom. They're called floor looms because
For looms.
they're sit on the floor as opposed to a table loom that sits on a table. It's a floor loom. So
So we have one more minute, okay? What is your advice for aspiring weavers? Okay, please give us your advice.
well,
Love to
you can
hear it.
find either start with a beginner's class, a 101. I would stay away from the internet because nothing is ever complete, finished the way that people show. So I would
Huh.
take a class. Universities have sometimes continuing ed courses. The weaving guilds, there are guilds everywhere. Um, and I would go to even a knitting store might offer, a
Oh
yarn
yeah.
store might offer a weaving course. So, and if you just start with a little tapestry loom, and see how that goes before you jump
Now,
into a table loom.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you so much, Jose. I hope people find this inspiring. I know that I was very slow on this, but I'm gonna finish it, okay?
It's all
I
right. There's no race here.
Exactly. There's no race. And
You
if you
shouldn't.
guys if you guys do this at home, give it a try. Um have fun with it, okay? Be patient with yourself. Okay. You deserve that patience. Jose, I want to thank you for coming and being our guest tonight on Solo Arts Heal. And again, I want to thank the Marsh as well. So thank you so much for providing this platform for Jose to share his experiences with how weaving has helped in his cancer journey using weaving
Can
as
I?
art therapy. Go
Okay.
ahead.
can I just say to the Marsh, yes, thank you for, being part of this. To Eric, who I would have never figured any of this out. And you, Hannah, you've been an incredible student and, learner. And Rick for, opening his mouth about me doing this and getting us together. So,
Thank you, Rick.
and to AnCan and Rick and AnCan,
Yes.
it's an incredible thing. So,
Check out AnCan, you guys. We're a
yes,
peer-to-peer support group, also with art classes and now a creative writing class as well. So have a great, wonderful night. Okay. Bye, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you.